Jena she works for PATINS. I have a relationship with PATINS for over 30 years, and they have helped me in so many ways in schools and with families to find the technology that works best for individual students. So I'm so excited to hear all her ideas for unlocking no-cost resources and technologies, empowering students with autism.
Well, welcome to this session. As Melissa stated, my name is Jena Fahlbush. I'm one of the PATINS specialists, and I'm curious if you want to share in the chat if you've ever even heard of the PATINS project before today. PATINS is this giant acronym. You can also use the nonverbal feedback if you want in the Zoom toolbar, the reactions to give a thumbs up or thumbs down. But PATINS stands for Promoting Achievement Through Technology and Instruction for All Students. And like Melissa mentioned, PATINS has actually been around since 1995. We're a statewide agency, and we support all Indiana public educators and public schools in creating and sustaining an equitable learning environment for every single student. And we do that through helping educators universally design the access, the engagement, and the participation in their classroom. We've been a too well of a kept secret for too many years, honestly. Because we offer all of our services at no cost. And we do have a long list of services available. So I share these services just knowing that this is what we have provided for years and years, including trainings and outreaches like I'm doing today. We do have an assistive technology lending library. So we've loaned out technology to educators. And that's to support students with autism, students with behavioral needs, students with physical access, complex bodies, blindness, low vision. And we also support the assistive technology use for any student. They don't have to have a specific disability that's noted in an IEP or a 504. We're really here to make sure kids have universal access to their curriculum. And if we can support that through a spectrum of technology, we want to do that. So keep PATINS in mind. Again, we know school's winding down right now, so it might not make sense this year, but if you want to say something to your students, educators, and say, hey, did you know PATINS is here? Try to take advantage of their services between now and June. We can provide trainings and consultations. We can observe students and then offer ideas for different technology resources, different strategy supports, and just kind of wrap them in whatever support it is that they might need. Before we get any deeper into today's content, I want to make an accessibility promise to you all because at PATINS, accessibility is our mission. So we want to make sure we model best practices. And if ever you're presenting to a group of individuals, please take away some of these ideas and use them in your presentations. So today, in the spirit of Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, I'm using simple backgrounds with sans serif high contrast font. So that means no decorative strokes on the ends of my letters. It's black text on a white background. There's something called alt text or alternative text added to all the important images in my slides. And I will be sharing a link near the end today so that you have the slide resources. And that alt text, what that is, those are descriptions that are written into the images through Google Slides and formatting options, and it makes those images accessible to someone who might be blind and using a screen reader, for example. They would hear an audio description of what the image is. Alt text is also cool because if an image doesn't load, usually the alt text shows in place of it for sighted users as well. There are automatic captions available in the Zoom toolbar, so turn those on if that's something that benefits you. You can get live captions, possibly even a transcript running the whole time. There will be digital materials that'll be shared out through some links and QR codes today. We're definitely going to look at some visual examples, and there will be that opportunity to ask your questions. So please think about using the chat today and ask your questions in the chat, and I will be happy to answer those as they're pertinent to the information. If it's a question that I think I'll maybe answer later, I might hesitate a little bit and I'll just wait to answer that question when it applies to the content. So our goal is to identify at least 3 tools or strategies to try for your specific child or student, or if you're working with a group of students. So think about how you can take away something today, because I'll be honest, I'm going to share a ton of tools. So don't let that overwhelm you. Know that you can reach out to me and ask me questions. Say, hey, I think you mentioned something. I can't even find it in the slide. I'm happy to troubleshoot back through what we talked about today, or to go into deeper information about one of the tools. So know that you can definitely email me. In fact, I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat. Oops, quick. There we go. That's jfahlbush@patinsproject.org. So hopefully you'll identify at least 3 tools or strategies. And our agenda is kind of as follows. We're going to collect our thoughts and come to common ground on who we're talking about. We're going to identify ways that we could be the disabler for our students or our children. Then we're going to look into those tech and tools and strategies. There actually won't be an evaluation for me today, so that won't be a part of our session. So when we're thinking about our students or your children, I like this quote from Stuart Duncan. And he says, autism is one word attempting to describe millions of different stories. So think about taking that quote and the content today and sharing that with your child's educators and helping advocate for seeing all students for their strengths and using strengths-based approaches with all of our students, because we do know that autism is a spectrum and it cannot define who a student is. We do know that some people like to be identified with autism as person first language versus the opposite. So they might say, I'm an autistic individual versus a student with autism. And it's great to find out what they prefer. But it's really helpful when we help those neurotypical people or those looking into the world of autism to better understand that the spectrum doesn't have to look necessarily like this, where we're thinking about this sliding scale of low functioning to high functioning. And you'll hear, sometimes educators or just individuals in the public saying, oh, they're low functioning, they're high functioning. And that I guess it can be helpful in some ways. And I know that there is some formal language used in research around low functioning to high functioning. But what I really want to push you and for you to take today to push others is to think, does that really capture who the human is when we put them on this sliding scale of low functioning to high functioning? And does that allow us to look at their strengths and to look at their unique characteristics and all of the good things and qualities that they bring to a classroom or to an environment, to a setting? So instead, one graphic I like to use is this soundboard graphic, where we have the autism spectrum at the top, and across the bottom on all these sliders, we have some of those common characteristics of autism, like being nonverbal, making eye contact, being fearless, being solitary, and so forth. And depending upon the day, the time of the day, what's been going on in our personal lives, if we're hungry, how our bodies are feeling, we have different reactions and we are showing different characteristics of ourselves. And same for our students on the spectrum. This soundboard could go on and on and on. And it just is a great way to think, okay, right now I'm seeing more or less of this. And what does that mean? And how can I support that to be whatever we need it to be in that moment? So take that graphic with you and share it widely. I just think it gives us a better idea of thinking about the unique characteristics and strengths of our students. Because I always say in my sessions too, like, depending upon the day, are you more low functioning or high functioning, or time of day? Some people say they're morning people, some people are night owls. And it really just depends for each of us when we are more high functioning, quote, low functioning. And there's so many factors that go into that. I mentioned that sometimes we've got to reflect on ourselves. So think about your interactions with your children or your students, or again, sharing these ideas with those that are working with your child. because it's good to ask yourself what assumptions you're making and if there are any biases that you're holding and what you might be bringing to a situation, what baggage you might be bringing to an environment. And to ask yourself if you've put any limits on the academic, the behavioral, or the social constructs and outcomes based upon what's quote unquote typical. Before I came to PATINS as a specialist in one area in autism, I was a Gen Ed third grade teacher. And I know that I did this because I didn't have an understanding of what students with autism brought to the classroom and how to have high expectations of them as individuals, not based upon what all the other kids were doing. And that was, again, that's to the detriment of all kids, not just to our students that have some type of identification. And lastly, ask if you've created any unintentional barriers to the contextual, the physical, or the social environments that your children or your students are encountering. Because it's just human nature. We make mistakes, but when we know better, we do better. And when we take time to actually reflect on it and be intentional, that's when we can change the game and change the environment or the setting or whatever it is that might need to be shifted to better support our students. So we're going to now get into some solutions, some tech and tools to support your child's strengths, challenges, and access to their learning. Again, ask questions if they come up as we go. We're going to start in the proactive space. So we're going to think about the environment, the structure, and the organization. And I'll be honest with you, I bet you're going to hear a lot of things you already know. So it might be a refresher for you, or it's something that, even though it seems so obvious to us, we need to remind our students, educators about the simple things sometimes. So I give you 8 environmental considerations here and ask whether or not these things have been included. So firstly, do we have a predictable structure and routine in place, and are we sticking to it? Secondly, are we offering some flexible seating and customized fidgets to meet students' needs? Have we done some exploring and some trialing to see what types of fidgets those are? And does it have to do with their hands or their feet or wiggling their whole bodies? Do we have clearly defined workspaces or workstation boundaries? And this can be certainly in a classroom, but definitely at home. Do we have visual supports in place? How about a safe space for some cool down and sensory regulation? Do they have opportunities to practice what they're learning? I think we take for granted the practice piece. We think we've taught them how to do it. They've shown us they can do it one time, and now we think it's just in their arsenal forever. We have to remember to practice, and especially to practice across different environments, because we need to help them generalize those coping skills and those whatever skills it is that you're building in throughout different settings and environments, because we travel through so many each, even in one day, let alone throughout a week or more time. Do they have easy access to materials? And last but not least, thinking about that sensory experience for our students and for your children, what's the lighting like? What's the sound like in a space, including the sound of some people's voices, or all voices for that matter, and the scents and the smells in a space as well. So I offer you some inspiration and ideas. These are classroom setting pictures because that's my background and we support educators, but you can certainly get some inspiration from these for maybe how to build a space in your home if that's what you're looking for. Firstly, here I have the time timer, and this is in the PATINS Lending Library. It is a great timer that has a big chunk of color to indicate how much time is left in whatever you're doing. So in this case, it's showing that there's 40 minutes left in the time allotted. And it's just a great visual for shrinking that color chunk to show actually how much time is left. I also share a digital resource called classroomscreen.com. And this is something, if your student is in a workspace or in the classroom, great for all kids. You put up classroomscreen.com and you can pull up different timer options. You can pull up volume meters. You can pull up a calendar of events, clocks, and there's all types of widgets that you'll see in the bottom left there across the bottom of that screenshot of classroomscreen.com. So it's a free resource. There's a premium version, but it's something to explore at no cost. Here is a sample of a safe space or calm down space in a classroom that has some nice low lamp lighting. When I was teaching, I loved using lamps. I rarely had on all of my overhead lights. Definitely was only using one of, 3 switches for my overhead lights when I needed them. So just thinking about the atmosphere you're creating with the lighting. And another image here, we have another classroom one more classroom calm down space, just for examples of how might you decorate that kind of in the center of the screen with some beanbag chairs and pillows and some stuffies, stuffed animals, books. And they have this great little tree made out of paper here in the background, which being outside is usually generally a calming experience for many individuals. So they're kind of bringing some of that inside. And then in the upper right here, we see some flexible seating, like some more bean bags, a yoga ball. I like the bath mat seat on the floor, or going to get some carpet squares. I taught kindergarten before 3rd grade, and carpet squares were my jam for helping kids understand where their bodies were to be in space on the floor, because that can feel a lot more loose, right, for themselves, and like where they should stay and what kind of area. And then last but not least, let's see, I have some pillows again, showing another safe space. You can be really creative and get your students or your kids involved in creating that space. The next thing I want to share, strategy-based, to support your students, especially their engagement in whatever it is that you're doing, whether that's an activity at home or an academic task. I always want to talk about universal design for learning and how to harness the power for that. So today might be your first introduction to that term, UDL, or universal design for learning. But really what it's about is providing choices. So how can I provide choices for the way kids engage with me? How can I provide choices for the way I represent what I'm trying to teach them? So for instance, today I'm representing in spoken language. I'm showing you PowerPoint or slides here, and you could also turn on the captions. So we've got some different options for representation. And then action and expression. Give your kids choices for the way they show you what they know. Especially as educators, I think, get away from those paper pencil tests. There's so many different options for allowing kids to show what they know. And what's important to note here is that when I talk options, I'm talking options all at the same time. Not that this week I'm giving a paper pencil test and next week I'll allow kids to do some writing, and then the following week they'll get to act it out in a play. It's offering those options all at the same time about the same content. And we love talking about UDL at PATINS, so reach out if you have any questions. And I point out, when it comes to UDL, think about involving your students or your child's interest in what you're doing. That's going to be a great way to engage them and keep their attention. And when kids are more engaged, they're less likely to be involved in challenging behaviors. We want to make content relevant to our students and why it's important to them. What's in it for them? What's the value? Think about some project or inquiry-based learning to help them really stay engaged for longer periods of time. I think all kids, all adults these days that have phones are struggling with attention spans because we have constant entertainment at the tip of our fingertips. So helping with longer term projects, and that goes to personal goal setting. Help your kids set goals for themselves so that they can see the progress that they're making. And I know sometimes our twice exceptional students with autism and another issue, or another, not issue per se, but like an affinity, a strength, right? They sometimes are even more prone to stopping when they feel that they've met their end, like they can't see how they can go farther. So helping them set those personal goals and tracking those goals, helping them track their progress, can be really powerful. Also, we want to have explicit expectations for our kids. So I'm going to share a quick video with you and ask if you can pass the attention test. Because I think as a teacher, I gave clear instructions and didn't always get the outcomes that I wanted. And now looking back, I have to check in and see, was I actually explicitly asking my kids to do what I wanted them to do, or providing them examples of what the output should look like? And I like the attention test as a means to bring it home, put ourselves in their shoes and have a little fun with this video.
To test just how much attention the attention-stealing design of the new Skoda Fabia actually steals, we left one parked on this ordinary road in West London. We wanted to see if its sharp crystalline shapes, bold lines and lower, wider profile would attract the desired level of attention. Will the 17-inch black alloy wheels stop passers-by in their tracks? Will the angular headlights attract the attention of other road users? Will a crowd gather to check out its fresh, sporty look? Well, not quite. But did the attention-stealing design distract you from noticing that the entire street has been changing right before your very eyes? Don't believe us? Have another look. Did you spot the van changing to a taxi? How about the scooter changing to a pair of bicycles? Or the lady holding a pig? Let alone the fact that the entire street is now completely different. Didn't think so.
So just a little, fun activity here to think about. Are we actually asking our kids and our students to do something very explicitly and telling them what to pay attention to even, or pointing out, where they should turn their gaze, turn their engagement, their attention. All right, there. Let me get myself back up and running in our live presentation. So to support attention and making things really explicit, I like to remind you to get super visual with your students, with your kids. You don't need to talk more, talk louder, talk slower, talk slower. We need to use visuals. And the visual is what can really support their understanding, their comprehension, and help complete tasks. Yeah, right, Melissa? She said she didn't see any of those things happening. He was talking about the blue car, but in reality was, and maybe that's what he wanted us to pay attention to. But there were things happening. And if they had told you, hey, pay attention to what happens to that taxi, you would have, or that van, you would have noticed it turned into a taxi. So just thinking about the words we use and being really intentional with those words and explicit. I like this graphic. So again, please take this with you to help others understand why it's so important to use visuals. And this is definitely supportive of kids with autism, as many of them are very visual learners, but it's also going to be supportive of most students, most children. So visuals are permanent. They allow time for language processing. They prepare students and children for transitions. They help kids see what you mean. They're, again, right in the center there. They help all students. They help build independence for our students, which I hope is a goal that you all have. Visuals are transferable between environments and people. They have no attitude. So there's no tone of frustration or disapproval. And they help our students reduce anxiety because they increase the predictability and the expectation of what's coming next. So think about it, and if you want to chat, what visuals you're using. Are you using any of these in the home setting? Or if you're in the classroom setting, are you using rules, schedules, first thens, visual boundaries, and sample pictures? Are you using social narratives with students? Those could be print or digital. Maybe some 5-point scales, video models, those traveling visuals so that they go with you on a lanyard and you always have them ready. Reminders for other adults in the environment so that they understand why you're using visuals, having a set of visuals ready for the other adults to use as well. There are choice boards and token boards and power cards. So power cards, a quick example is shown here in the bottom right, and then I'll answer your question, Elizabeth. Power cards are when you have a child or a student that has an affection for a character or train, something. Use that to your advantage because that's their interest, and that can be a great way to engage them, as I talked about earlier. So in this situation, we're going to talk about a child who loves Grogu from The Mandalorian and Star Wars. And we've talked about how it's important to stay at a desk during a work time activity. And you notice here on the screen, this says Grogu wants you to stay at your desk. So first what we do is we kind of create a short social narrative about how Grogu wants the student or the child to stay in their desk area at this certain time. And we read through that social narrative together, we practice it. And then once we feel like it's in place, we just cut out like the bottom right of this slide, laminate it, and we have a quick visual to present to our students when maybe they start wandering during a work time activity. And it can be a great quick reminder for that student of, oh, yep, this is time to be in my seat. And you might pair that with a timer to help them understand how much time's left in that activity. And I see Stephanie said you also use a visual calendar. It's created each month so your son knows where he's going each day. Yeah, I mean, do you all use calendars? I don't know about you, but I have handwritten notes about things I want to do day to day. I also use multiple digital calendars. There are so many resources we have at our fingertips to keep ourselves organized. So I'm glad to hear that you're using those calendars. And then also I see using first thens and social stories and daily visual schedule of transitions. And when I talk about 5-point scales, you can do some Googling on that. There are just unlimited options to take a 5-point scale. In fact, gosh, of course, mine is in a bag, not in my office right now, but a voice scale could be on a 5-point scale. So think about it, 0 to 5 written down on a piece of paper. 0 is no voice. To a 5 would be a screaming voice. And we define all the numbers in between. And then we use that to better help a student maybe control the volume of their voice when needed. But you can put so many different things on a 5-point scale. It can be from different emotions to the volume level. And of course, the ideas aren't coming to me as quickly as I want them to at this moment, but oh, great, thanks. Melissa posted a link there to some support for 5-point scales. That's awesome. Thanks, Melissa. What digital calendar do you use? Any specific app? Honestly, I use Google Calendar. That's my preferred calendar, but I also use the calendar built into my phone. If anybody has any digital calendar apps that they love, please share those in the chat. And so much good conversation going on in the chat. So thank you for that. I see somebody mentioned too, if there's no visual at your disposal, draw a picture. That is a great way to use a visual right in a pinch. And I see somebody uses Boardmaker's calendar as well. So great, keep those coming. And a visual that you might consider implementing, if this makes sense for you, is the CHAMPS visual. So CHAMPS stands for Conversation, Help, Activity, Movement, Participation, and Success. And what I like about CHAMPS and this next one called Achieve, which stands for very similar activities, A for activity, C for conversation, H for help, I for integrity, E for effort, V for value, and E for efficiency. What these two visuals do is take those ideas and clarify them for different types of activities. So this one is school-based that we're looking at on the left here, where we have the outline of CHAMPS for morning work, for when the teacher's speaking, for group work, and then for a test or a quiz. And that can just be super helpful because, again, we want to help our kids generalize, understanding what to do in different settings. And sometimes it differs between settings. So we can talk about when the conversation looks the same in different settings and when it's different. And this is just a great visual reminder then for helping them understand what's expected in those different, throughout those different activities in their day. So again, Achieve is very similar. When this was presented to me, it was mentioned that Achieve might be for your older or your more mature students. But again, you could set that up for any different activity, a set of activities that you had or tasks. Here's some quick sample visuals. We've got some visual schedules here on the left, and I add this little question mark graphic because if you're working on flexibility with students, think about adding a question mark to the schedule and then maybe putting 2 events or 2 activities next to the question mark. So you start building in, okay, during this time of day, we're going to do one or the other of these things. We're not sure which one, it's just going to be a random happening or whatever. So then again, that works on their flexibility at one time during the day, but they still know it's one of the two things, and they can do some work to understand what that means and what those expectations are. And then as they get used to being flexible to those two activities, maybe you bump it up to 4 different options that might happen during that time. And those can be preferred and non-preferred activities. And you just keep building on that until you feel like they can just handle the question mark. At some point during the day, there's going to be an unknown activity, but we've practiced this when the students regulated and they know that they can handle this, this unknown during the day. Some other visuals here, we have a choice board where they could choose from a puzzle, an iPad, or bubbles. And oh, here's a 5-point scale here in the center of the screen. So that's your volume level. 0 to 5, you might be using a break card with students or your children to have them hand you that break card when they need to take a break. And then along the bottom right there, it's I will take 5 deep breaths. So that's a way to support their self-regulation when maybe they're feeling like they're starting to rumble a little bit, and there's cards that they put on as they take those 5 deep breaths. And those are attached with just some Velcro dots. Another quick visual for you is 2 by 10 till you talk again, 2 by 10 to comprehend. So after you say 2 words or you show a visual, stop talking and provide at least 10 seconds of wait time. We need that processing time. Our kids need that processing time so that they can be on that same page with you. It can seem like a long time to wait 10 seconds, so actually count it out on your fingers. And Melissa's right. Yes, I am very school-based, but these are absolutely things you can do at home. And in fact, they're going to be better when you're doing them at home and at school to keep it as consistent as possible. So if you talk to your child's teacher and they're using some visuals at school, ask what they're using and replicate it at home. I would hope that that teacher would be more than happy to share some of those ideas for you or even create a set of visuals for you to use at home. Oh yeah, right? We need them for ourselves, so our kids need them too. Our grandkids need them too. That's right. That's right. Here's some tech to try. So this is where I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna put a lot of tech in your on your plate here, but just make notes maybe of what sounds interesting to you. Pick 3 or so that you want to look more into, and then know that the slides will be there so you can come back and look into all of the options. Firstly, I have bone conduction headphones. Those are pictured in the upper right, and those headphones go in front. They rest in front of a child's ears. So if your kid or student doesn't like things in or on their ears, the bone conduction headphones might be an option if they need, that audio at ear level for listening to music or listening to something being read out loud, whatever the task or activity is. Secondly, I mentioned an FM system, and here in the center of the screen, there's a picture of a kid using an FM system. So what this is the teacher or the parent would wear a mic and a transmitter, and the kid or the student would be wearing headphones with a receiver. And so the adult's voice or whoever's wearing the mic is going right to the student's ear level. I always recommend contacting an audiologist before you do anything with headphones with a student, just to make sure that that makes sense for them. Those audiologists are going to be your experts to ensure that that makes sense for the student's need. But I've seen it work for a student. This kid, I think actually his diagnosis was ADHD, but we know attention can be a struggle for a lot of our kids. Number 3 here is a watch minder pictured on the far right center. That's obviously just a wearable watch that can be set with multiple different reminders throughout the day. And you set it to read a word across the screen. So if they need to remember to breathe, or to take a bathroom break at certain times during the day, or to brush their teeth, something with a morning or a bedtime routine, you can plug in, gosh, I forget the number, but it's quite a few of different reminders through the day. You also can think about different organization apps. And if you are using organizational apps like CanPlan or My Homework for school tasks, feel free to share those in the chat. Google Keep is a free Google resource. I tend to use a lot of Google stuff, but there's lots of different ways to organize yourself digitally, if that's helpful. Of course, calendars, like we've already been talking about. Number 5 is the IHT heart rate monitor, pictured in the bottom right. If you have a child who has heavy anxiety, or, might be having some physical issues. This is a heart rate monitor, just like it sounds. So it's a wearable watch, but what it's attached to is an app that tracks that heart rate data. So you can see at certain times during the day when the heart rate is elevated, and then you can match that to their schedule and what was going on and help them figure out what's causing the anxiety, the increased heart rates at that time, and how can we maybe do some sensory work before that activity to help their bodies regulate, or do some breath work, heavy work, whatever it is that helps their bodies feel better before some of those anxiety causing activities. And a really low tech option is colored paper. Sometimes when we need to get our kids engaged in what we're doing, it just takes something as simple as printing everything on green paper because they love the color green, and that's what gets them engaged. I will share back to number 2 real quick, the FM system, and I have a note in the slide notes for you all, is that there are cheaper ways, because FM systems aren't usually super cheap, but there are ways that if you and the student are using like Apple devices over iOS 15, possibly, or no, iOS 12 or later, there's an accessibility feature so that your mic will pick up your voice and go to the student's AirPods if they were using Apple AirPods, and some other non-Apple earbuds as well. All right, let's see. What if they don't want to wear a watch due to sensory issues? Are there workarounds you suggest to prepare for use? I'm interested in the anxiety monitor. That's a good question. Of course, sensory issues always do or can provide some extra thought needed. And with the heart rate monitor, I guess I would probably explore like what is it about the item that they don't like? Is there something that we could do to add to the band to make it easier to wear? Of course, with the heart rate monitor, it's going to have to be on their wrist to pick up that heart rate. But maybe there would be an option to wear it around their ankle if that seemed to be a better place for that for the child. I think we just have to do some exploring for your child's specific needs. I'm going to give you some more tools for supporting academic access to content. So for comprehension, I know we only have about 6 minutes left, so I'm going to run through just a few things, some highlights from each of these slides. For comprehension, turn on the captions. So if you're watching videos, turn on those captions. That's going to be engaging, and it's going to help kids see what they mean, right? See the words that are being spoken. And I like Prismo Go, number 5 here. That's a free app for iOS that if you need a document read out loud on the fly, you take a picture of the document with this free app and it'll do some conversion, and then it can read that out loud. Postlight Reader is a free Google extension. It would also work in the Edge browser, that if your student was doing some research or just online, they love elephants and they're reading all about elephants, but all these ads and things keep popping up and you're noticing it's taking them down the internet wormhole. Postlight Reader will strip out all of the ads and the extraneous content on like the sidebars and just provide the written article text. So those are some highlights for comprehension. Some highlights for spelling include allowing your kids to dictate. If your child is struggling with spelling, like all of our devices these days can support dictation. Apple devices, Android devices, Mac computers, Windows computers, Google Chromebooks. If you have questions about how to turn on dictation, let me know. I love dictation. I use it personally. I'm a talk texter, so I don't know if anybody here is talk texting, but it saves me so much effort and time, especially if I'm trying to do something else. And another highlight here for spelling is the Osmo. It's pictured in the bottom right here, number 3. So Osmo, it's $99 for the pack of 3 you're seeing, and it does pair with an iPad, so you have to have the iPad, but it has a words option. It actually can support some tangram, like mathematical spatial reasoning as well. And it's a super interactive. You're using these actual manipulatives with your iPad and an app. It's a really cool tool. You can totally Google Osmo, and I'm sure there's videos on YouTube of somebody using it, so you could see that in action. Some highlights for writing include the expanding expression tool. Number 1 is pictured on the right. So this is a beaded rope but each bead has a specific meaning. So if you're doing some nonfiction writing, helping a kid, write a paragraph about something they're interested in, they pull the green bead from the bottom to the top, and green is group. So you ask them, okay, what group or category does this thing belong to? And there's an example like, is it an article of clothing? Is it a piece of furniture? Is it a type of food? And then blue, do. So when you move the blue bead up, you ask, what does this thing do? What do you do with it? What could be done with it? And so forth. So each has an activity or question set to go with the color of bead. And there's even a song online I'm sure you can find. And you can make this with a pipe cleaner and colored beads. One more highlight for writing is word prediction. So a couple tools, Co-Writer and Read and Write. Those are extensions for the Google browser or the Edge browser. Read and Write has a free version. Co-Writer has a free 30-day trial. They both have word prediction. So if your students get stuck looking at, or your children get stuck looking at a white page when they're asked to write some type of digital content, or to write and you're using typing, having that word prediction turned on and they see a word pop up might be just what they need to get over that blank page fear. Or again, helping with spelling, helping them go with the words that come up and just writing, just let them explore the word prediction and see where it gets you. For taking notes, I'm going to highlight number 2 here, Microsoft Translator. That's a free app. And when you go into the Translator app, you can turn on this conversation feature, and it just starts captioning all the conversation that's being said in the moment. And there obviously has to be the speakers have to be close to the device, but I use it because I'm on a couple different boards where I'm a note taker. And so I turn on my captions so that I can go back and see what was being said, because I can't type as fast as they're talking. So I love using Translator as a support for note taking. And for math, you see some options here. I'll just mention, if your students or children are getting into more complicated math, Equatio is, it's free for teachers right now. Not sure how long that's going to last. But it is probably the most robust Google product to support math access, accessible digital math access. But you'll see some others. And number 5 listed on this slide, the manipulatives, are a couple things we have in our lending library. So know that in the slides, as I'm running out of time, there are some supports for socialization. I love robots for this, and the Blue Bee Pal pictured in the center, number 1. He acts like he's just a speaker, but the Blue Bee Pal's mouth moves, so you could set him up to read online stories out loud to your kids, or you can actually call the Blue Bee Pal. It's a Bluetooth speaker, so you could be talking through the dog's mouth. It would be your voice, but the dog's head would be moving and look like the student or child would be talking to the dog to practice socialization skills and having conversation. So there are some tips in here for socialization and communication as well. We know there's lots of tech to support communication, and PATINS can directly support communication needs, especially if your student is non-speaking or not using as much language, spoken language, as maybe they have in them. And so we want to unlock their voices and give them access to more complete communication. So thank you so much for your attention today, you all. So thanks for having me, Melissa. I appreciate it.